Hi, I'm Susan Regan, and I help people in relationships. One of the ways I help is that if relationships are going well, I help people assess what to do and all along the way, what they'll feel emotionally, what are some of the challenges and ways that they can get support. So I decided to make a series of a separation journey so you can actually see what the process is like, demystify yourself, so to speak. And if you're going through it, you'll get tips along the way to help guide you. So people always ask me, is my marriage in trouble? And some of the ways that I look at this with folks is not only their own stress levels and unhappiness, because I really want people to be accountable for what they're bringing into the time in their marriage that is difficult. But I also thought I wanted to give you some real marked things to notice in your relationship. And I follow Gottman. He writes a lot about how to keep your marriage healthy. And you'll see that link below. But he talks about the Four Horsemen. And these are four points to look at in your relationship if you feel like things are coming up. I want you to identify as you're listening ones that might be in your relationship. To be really accurate, I'm going to read them out loud to you because I think his wording is really specific and important to understand. And I'll explain each as we go along. So this describes, this is Dr. John Gottman. There are four behaviors that can predict the end of a relationship if not addressed. Criticism, attacking your partner's character rather than addressing specific behaviors that you want to change or that you're uncomfortable with. Contempt, showing disrespect, mocking, or sarcasm toward your partner. Defensiveness, rejecting responsibility and counterattacking when confronted. And then stonewalling, withdrawing and becoming emotionally unavailable during conflicts. So the reason why this is so critical to address these four horsemen is because if they're not addressed, they get more extreme. And then it's really hard to see, like, how can I deal with my partner and be really balanced with them alternatively? Because if people are kind of fighting in ways that really trigger us, we can't be actively communicating and productive in communication or in changing behavior. So I want you to really think about the four horsemen and if any of those characteristics are in your marriage right now. Another place to look right away, right at the beginning, is to take an assessment yourself, your own reflections and your own values about what you saw as the things that you wanted in your marriage, the vision that you had. Have you lost sight of that vision? And also, sometimes people are feeling like there's life is really stressful right now, and this is not a good time to separate and to identify what are those areas that would be even more stressful if a separation happened during this period. Oftentimes, it's raising kids at a certain level and age, sickness in the family, job loss, medical issues coming up. Stressors can be high. So rather getting separated and focusing on the relationship during that time, my advice to you is to get support on the stressors that seem so high and see if that alleviates some of the stress in the relationship. A lot of people, aside from the timing of what's going on in the family, think about the long-term effects of how this decision is going to affect children, finances, location, job status, education, all of that. So I would actually take some time to think about what is the long-term effects of this decision. Sometimes it can be actually the right decision to make, but it's just going to require transition. So as you're writing down what the long-term effects would be, I want you to talk in your journaling about areas that you're really concerned about and what possible solutions are to manage that. Because a lot of times people put together the problem of the marriage and then the problems of life, and they're actually very different. Sometimes those get so meshed that we can't see which one is which. So to help my clients through this period, I do a process called discernment counseling, and I meet each person separately and then together, and we really identify what the problems of the relationship are and create a plan. I always think about it in three doors. Door number one, you do nothing because the stressors are too high in the relationship and you continue to get support, but you still have to plan how you're going to deal with maybe not actively being engaged in the relationship or the marriage that you thought you had. This is sort of a reconstruction period. Then door number two is everybody rolls up their sleeves and does as much work as they can on themselves and the relationship to see if the relationship can be saved. And then door number three, and this can happen if one person says, I'm out, I just don't want to do this anymore. Sometimes door number three happens, even if the other person wants to work on the relationship. And then we tactfully and using a lot of strategy, we go into how we're going to plan out a separation with consideration of people who are going to be affected and life circumstances that are going to be affected. And then we create a plan. So these are the ways that I help people initially assess what's going on in their marriage.